The first thing we're going to do for our gingerbread stars is get a bowl with 350 grams of plain flour, 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda and 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, and to that add 100 grams of butter cut up into cubes. And what we're going to do is we're going to rub that in, so you want to use the very tips of your fingers and just massage the butter in between them with bits of flour until the big bits break up and you end up with a sort of breadcrumby texture. Now to that flour and butter mixture, you're going to add 175 grams of light muscavado sugar and just mix that until it's all combined, crushing up the big lumps of sugar as you go. Now I'm just going to make a well in the middle of that mixture, and to that I'm going to add 1 beaten egg and 4 tablespoons of golden syrup. A top tip for this is just to pop your tablespoon in a pot of boiling water just for a little bit, so that when you tip it out, it comes out really easily instead of getting all sticky. Once your ingredients are all in there, just start then giving it all a good mix with your spoon. I later found out that doing this recipe in a food processor is much easier, but this does work. So all you do need is a bowl and a spoon, and that's just fine. So yeah, just keep persevering, keep mixing until it forms some kind of a dough. I found that just going in with my hands actually was a lot quicker than the spoon. And then once it's kind of mixed together, I put it on the work surface and just use that instead of the bowl, and I found it a lot easier to just incorporate everything. Just keep kneading it until it forms a smooth dough. Hopefully you can see a bit of a change here in the consistency of the dough. So yeah, you want to keep going until it's something like this, a bit more smooth and less crummy than what it was before. Now I'm just going to divide the dough in half and roll it out one half at a time, so you don't end up with a giant sheet of dough on your work surface. So I'm just going to dust it lightly with a bit of plain flour, dusting the work surface and the dough and the rolling pin as well, just because you don't want it to stick to each other. So I'm just going to keep rolling until it's about 5 millimeters thick. Now I'm going to just get my cutter, which is a star, but you can use whatever shape you'd like, maybe Christmas tree or gingerbread person, and just use it to cut out the shapes and put onto a lined baking tray. I then just use up the scraps that I couldn't cut a shape out of and re-roll it out again. You don't want to do this too many times, otherwise the biscuits will get a bit tough, but yeah, once or twice is fine. This recipe makes about 50 biscuits, so yeah, it's quite a lot. You might want to halve it if you don't want that many. But yeah, just re-rolling and re-cutting. Once all your shapes are done, just put them in the fridge on their baking trays for an hour. That way, when they go in the oven, they don't puff or expand, but they keep their shape really nicely and crisp. And then they're going to go into the oven that's been preheated to 170 degrees or gas mark 5 for 10 to 12 minutes. I'm then taking them off the baking tray onto a cooling rack straight away so they don't keep cooking on the tray. Now it's time to decorate our biscuits. If you've got little ones with you, a bit of icing sugar and water, food colouring and sprinkles is a really great way to decorate these biscuits. But if you're a bit older or fancy something a bit more challenging, I've got a bag of fondant icing here. I tried to find royal icing sugar, but there was none in the whole of Harborne. So I'd recommend using royal icing sugar because that gets a slightly more stiff icing, so it's not as runny and you can do more intricate designs. You can just cut a hole in a piping bag, or I've got quite a small piping nozzle on here to try and get some nice details. You want to hold your piping bag between your thumb and your first finger here and squeeze from the top and use your other hand to guide the pattern. You don't want to be squeezing from the bottom, squeeze from the top so that all the icing comes down here more neatly. Yeah, I go on Pinterest and just look up kind of gingerbread star decorations. Here's one I've piped earlier. But yes, just have a go, be creative, and no two snowflakes are the same, so if you make a mistake, it's fine.